Welcome to the Health by Haven podcast. I'm your host, Haven Quinlan. If you're a multi-passionate wellness enthusiast, then you're in the right place. I'm obsessed with learning as much as I can about the wellness world, and I want to share that with you. Each episode will dive into various aspects of health and wellness through inspiring and informative guest interviews with some solo episodes thrown in. Tune in for all things health, and let's have some fun, shall we? Preparing for pregnancy or navigating motherhood? Foundation of Stone Pediatric and Perinatal Family Chiropractic in Knoxville, Tennessee supports moms and babies through gentle nervous system-based chiropractic care. Learn more at tnkidschiro.com. Welcome to season 5 of the Health by Haven podcast. Oh my goodness, I can't even believe we're already at 5 seasons. So whether you've been here since the very beginning or this is the first time you're listening to this show, thank you guys so much for being here. If this is the first time listening, you're welcome to stay for this solo episode, but there are lots and lots of amazing, great guest episodes as well in the previous 4 seasons. So definitely make sure you go check those out as well. Lots of different experts in the health and wellness field, giving you really great, tangible health advice. But today, I thought I'd kick off season 5 with a recap of the 2026 Brooklyn Half Marathon. As I'm recording this, it is Monday, May 18th, so a couple of weeks early before this airs on June 1st. But 2 days ago, I ran the Brooklyn Half Marathon. This is the 3rd time I ran this race, and lots of messages about people wanting a recap, wanting to kind of know the behind the scenes of how to get in the race because it's a hot topic to get into a New York Roadrunners race and have a fun race in New York City. So we're going to be covering all of that today. We're going to give a little bit of an overview of the race itself, the expo, what my race day experience looked like. We're going to talk about celebrating the race, of course, about how to get in if you're interested in running the race next year or in years to come. A little bit of course and training strategy, of fueling, nutrition for running, some lessons I learned on the run, and more. So if you're interested in that, if you're a runner, if you want to be a runner, if you're curious about running a half marathon or running a New York Roadrunners race, then today's episode is for you. So the 2026 RBC Brooklyn Half Marathon was on Saturday, May 16th. And right off the bat, I love that. I love a Saturday race because then you still get to go celebrate that afternoon and have Sunday off to kind of rest and recover before most of us get back to our normal weekday work lives. This race runs from Prospect Park to Coney Island, all in Brooklyn, 13.1 miles. And this year was the largest amount of runners at this race in this race's history with 30,341 finishers. The top male ran in 1 hour, 4 minutes, and 33 seconds for his half marathon debut, casually winning your first half marathon. I cannot relate. The top female won in 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 12 seconds. Again, goals cannot relate to that speed. And the non-binary winner won in 1 hour, 18 minutes, and 21 seconds. This year, the expo was at a new location. So for non-runners, and you're like, what the heck is an expo? This is where for larger races, they have one day or multiple days in advance of the race where you can go pick up the number that you wear on your chest when you're running your race day bib. You pick that up. You pick up if there's like a t-shirt for the race, if there's any other gear that they're selling, that is where you go and pick it up. There's oftentimes like interactive stations with sponsors, fun photo opportunities. New York Roadrunners does a really good job at profiling the course. They've got pacers at the expo to kind of chat through what their strategy is going to be. If you know, I really want to aim for, a 2-hour, sub 2-hour half, you can go and talk to the 2-hour pacer, learn about what their strategy is. Are they running even splits? Are they running different times based off of the course elevation profile. So maybe the hillier miles are a little slower and then the downhill miles are a little faster, things like that. So it can be a really good way to kind of glean some insight if you're wanting to run with a pacer, but you're a little bit nervous. You don't have to try to find them on race morning. So Expo this year was in Prospect Park. It was a gorgeous location on a really nice day. They had it for 3 days. I went on Friday, the day before the race, to pick up my race number. And this was a part of Prospect Park I had never been to. I mean, I've run through it many times, but this was right near the water. It was so beautiful. It made me want to go back and do some more runs and explore through the park, or maybe take a little picnic there. So pro tip, if you're visiting the city and you want to be outside in a pretty park, but maybe away from some of the crowds of Central Park, you could check out Prospect Park in Brooklyn. But anyways, went to the expo, got my bib, got my shirt. New Balance is the title sponsor for a lot of, or maybe all, I don't know, of New York Roadrunners races. And so they always do the apparel for them. They had some fun race day apparel, but nothing that I was like, I absolutely need to purchase this. I'm sure many of us have way too many t-shirts and sweatshirts and things. So where you can get some extra Brooklyn Half gear. They had like a giant race medal that you could take a picture with, a couple other photo opportunities. They, of course, have the name wall, like a bunch of large races do. You can see the names of every single participant of the race. Find your name. That's always a fun one. And then like a huge version of the course map. So you can kind of take a look again, familiarize yourself with the course. I know I always like to have at least the gist of where I'm running. It makes the race feel less overwhelming, and you can kind of like break it up into chunks, which we'll get to when I do my mile by mile breakdown. All right, race morning. On Saturday morning, my alarm went off 4:15 a.m. Was a little bit rough, I'm not going to lie, waking up in the dark again. We've been really lucky to have early sunrises here in New York City. So even though my normal alarm is at 5:15, the sun's usually coming up by then. So it was a little bit like going back into the winter, waking up in the dark. Had to, get up, get myself ready, have a little bit of fuel before we left the apartment about 5:20 in the morning. And my lovely husband joined me even for the ride out to Prospect Park early in the morning. So we left about 5:20, got to the subway platform about 5:28, hopped on the train about 5:31. I am making diligent notes of this because if you listen to my recap of the New York City Half Marathon from earlier this year, it was a big rush for me to get to the start line. The trains were very delayed. I was getting really nervous about it. So this time I decided, you know what? Better early than late. I'd rather wait around a little bit at the start line and lose a little bit of sleep versus feeling super rushed and stressed to make it to my start corral before they closed it. And I think there were some major backups with security at the New York City Half that they worked really hard to address for this, because I walked straight through security in probably under 60 seconds. They were very efficient this year, which was wonderful. But with that early schedule, I was already off the train, through security, and used the bathroom by 6:02 a.m. So my wave, I was in wave 1, corral D, did not start until 7 a.m. So I had a whole hour just waiting around in my corral. I listened to some running podcasts, pass the time. But yeah, just a note on travel, obviously with morning subways and weekend subways, they're just spaced out a lot more. So better early than late. I learned that the hard way last time. Once the race actually began, I'm going to do a little mile by mile breakdown for you guys, and I'll try to keep this brief because I know if you're a runner, maybe you care. If you're not, maybe this is a little bit boring. Feel free to skip through. This race, I've run it the last 3 years now, 24, 25, and 26. It's also a similar start to the current New York City Half Marathon. It starts in the exact same place. And so miles 1 and 2, I am familiar with, and it is always a bit of a push at any race, especially large races. you're packed in at the beginning. You're weaving through crowds. Everyone's settling into their own pace. And that makes me a bit claustrophobic feeling. So I always end up going out a little bit too hot because I'm just trying to like find a good pocket of space around me. But this particular course, miles 1 and 2, kind of into mile 3, are quite hilly. You do like an out and back. The out is essentially uphill for a mile. The back is essentially downhill for a mile. So that's a little bit rough to kind of get settled into a pace. And I always go out a little too hot. Do as I say, not as I do. Try to go out with a steady, even pace. By mile 3.5, I noticed, oh, I'm having to wipe sweat off my brow already. This is going to be a hot day. And traditionally, this race has been quite a hot race. May in New York City, you never really know what you're going to get. Earlier this past week, it was actually still like quite chilly. But this weekend is when it started to really get warm. New York Roadrunners did send out like a big email with all of these like safety recommendations for running in the heat. They did a really good job of preparing people for that, I think, because there have been some incidents in past years with the heat. They had, misting stations, extra fluid stations. They're, telling runners like different strategies to stay cooled off in the hot weather, not to push yourself, all the things. So yeah, mile 3.5, when I was already sweating, I was like, oh dear. This seems to happen to me every year where I go out a bit hot in this race and then I realize, oh gosh, I need to pull back a little bit to keep myself safe. So mile 4, I did that. I decided, you know what, I need to just settle in. This race was never meant to be like a goal race for me, a PR push for me. So I decided to settle back a little bit. I didn't really want to be crazy hurting during this race or feeling the effects after the race all day long. I wanted to go and have a nice day with Billy. So mile 4, decided to pull back a little bit. Miles 5 and 6, honestly, just kind of clicked by. That was when I kind of started to get into a flow. There's still quite a bit of shade in the park through those miles, which definitely helps with the heat. And honestly, as much as they sent out heat advisories, I do feel like out of the past 3 years, and I haven't gone back and looked at the temperatures, but to me, like the perceived heat at least didn't feel as bad this year as the other 2 years, which was nice. Mile 7 is when you exit the park. And for some reason, like I feel like the park exit and then like getting on to Ocean Parkway has been like rough the last few years. You're finally like out in full direct sun. It's a little bit of an up before it's a down onto the parkway. It just felt like a little bit of a push, but this year actually like felt pretty easy. I was like, wait, was that over already? Like, I don't know. I didn't realize. And I started looking for the lettered streets because the whole way down Ocean Parkway, the cross streets are lettered. So A to Z, you can kind of see where you are in the race. And some people hate that. I actually love it. I usually don't really notice the streets because I like just like a straight shot run where you're not using your brain to think about the turns and the tangents. You just kind of go and like get in the zone. So I realized, oh, it's cross street is C. So I guess we're on the Ocean Parkway now. So that was a pleasant surprise that it felt easier to get on to the parkway this year. And I saw one of my running club friends, Phoebe, right before I exited the park. That was such a fun surprise. I don't know how she found me in the crowd of people, but she like screamed my name and it was a nice little boost to see her. So hi, Phoebe, if you're listening. And then, yeah, you have about miles 8 to 10, just a straight shot down Ocean Parkway. I love this part of the race. Again, some people hate it because they're like, oh my gosh, it's just one straight line. It feels like it's never going to end. And like all I can focus on is the letters like slowly clicking down. But for me, I just kind of feel like I can turn my brain off, get into a groove, try to find that runner's high, if you will. I try to make notes in my brain as I was running this so I could recap for you guys. And I remember being like, whoa, this is freaky. The only lettered streets that I really like looked up and noticed to see like, hey, where am I on this stretch of road? Were C, then I, and then M. And for anyone who's not like a super running nerd like me, you're probably like, okay, I don't care. But for me, that was one of the marathons I was considering running, CIM, California International Marathon. And I was like, what does it mean? Like, do I need to sign up for this race? I know it sounds so silly, but that's just what was going through my head at the time. On this stretch of road, there was more shade than I remember. Maybe it was like a shadier day for some reason. The trees are fuller. I don't know. But I feel like in past years, this has felt like full on sun to me, like no reprieve from the bright sun and the heat from it, but it felt a little bit shadier this year. And I mean, I've been in wave one the last 3 years, so I don't really know what that's about. Maybe the trees are just fuller, but it felt good. I clicked along. It was like a comfortably uncomfortable pace for me. So like I was pushing it for sure, but I wasn't like fully gassing myself to where I felt like I couldn't keep my breathing under control. Again, I want to feel challenged in a race, but I didn't want to be hurting the whole time in this race, if that makes any sense. I wanted to find that kind of happy medium. At mile 11 and a half, the 140 pacer passed me. And my half marathon PR prior to this race was 1:40:05, which is so incredibly annoying. Those, I guess, 6 seconds over that sub 140, it's kind of like a milestone to try to break that barrier. And so that was really annoying. So when they passed me, I was kind of like, oh, like that's a bummer. And I was like, maybe I'll try to hang with them for a few minutes, but it felt a little bit faster than what I wanted to push to hold. And I knew like if I really wanted to dig deep and hurt and go into the well today, I could probably hang on to them, but I just don't. Like today was a race meant to just be fun. And I don't want to feel like garbage the rest of the day because I like gassed myself so much for this last like mile and a half. So I just let them go. And they started a little bit behind me in the crowd as well. So I knew I'd have to finish like in front of them really if they were keeping pace to run a sub 140. And I was like, you know what? That wasn't the goal of today. Today the goal was fun. I'm just going to let them go. Once you get to around mile 12, you make a right-hand turn and you're running like parallel with the water at that point. This stretch of road felt longer to me than I remember. I think because it was the first like full sun, no shade, not even a little bit from trees around. You're starting to get into some crowds of spectators, people who take the train all the way out to Coney Island to kind of cheer their runners on towards the finish line. But it was getting really hot and I was getting really over it. And I was like, wow, I don't remember this part feeling that long. Then you make a left-hand turn to kind of get onto the ramp up onto the Coney Island boardwalk. I imagine it's around mile, I don't know, 12 3/4 or so, 12 and a half, 12 3/4 to get onto the boardwalk. And that's when the crowds start getting really loud, lined on both sides. Kind of feels like what the New York City Marathon feels like, but it's crazy to me that the entire marathon course is that loud. And this was just like one tiny little section of the half course, but it's definitely motivating to have those crowds there supporting all the runners. And then you take a pretty immediate right-hand turn to get up onto the Coney Island boardwalk. And this is where the race finishes. This year, they did extend that finish line by about 200 feet. Not sure where they took the other 200 feet out, but I did learn that by listening to the New York Road Runners podcast. And I'm glad that I did because there's a big pedestrian bridge over the boardwalk. So for spectators to get up and over the boardwalk, so they're not obviously crossing onto the course right in front of runners before they finish. It did kind of look like a finish line arch. So I'm really glad I listened to that podcast, heard that warning that don't stop there. You still have like 50 feet to go. Keep running all the way through the finish line. So that was really the only time I noticed it. But I realized kind of turning onto the boardwalk, I was like, let me just take a look at my watch. And I was at like 1 hour and 39 minutes. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I can see the finish, but it's still like a while away. I could actually PR this race. Like, let me start pushing. So I did. I pushed it at the end. Not as much as I pushed at the end of the New York City half this year, which was my PR by over 2 minutes. But I was hurting, not as bad as that, but I was trying to push it. I was trying to see what I could do in that last little stretch there. And when I crossed the finish and I hit my watch, it said 1 hour, 39 minutes and 57 seconds. And I was like, oh gosh, like, please let this be accurate. I hope this is accurate. Because, you know, if you just hit that side of your watch just a little too soon or too late, it can totally change things when you're talking about the difference of 3 seconds being sub 140. Turns out that my official time was 1:39:54, so actually 3 seconds faster than what my watch said, which was a relief that it wasn't the other way around. So it was officially an 11-second PR, nothing crazy, but like I said, going under that 140 just felt like a big difference. And I was really, really, really happy about it. A super happy accident and pleasant surprise. Mostly, I was happy to finish like feeling really good, like feeling strong. When I went through the finish line chute, I was like, okay, like I feel all right. Grab my water, grab my Gatorade, grab the snacks, get one of the like towels that they like soak in ice water to help cool you off really fast. That is such a nice touch, by the way, on a hot race day. Got my medal, walked into the baseball field where kind of like the finish party is, and found Billy. And he was like, oh, you seem like totally fine. And I was like, yeah, I kind of feel like totally fine. It was amazing because compared to finishing in New York City half, and I felt like so incredibly gassed and exhausted and like, you know, a little bit delirious when you're pushing yourself that hard in a run. And then my stomach was upset and all of that. And I felt like good after this race. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I had a much stricter training schedule for the New York City half because that was a race where I was like, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to see what I can do and really push myself. And this race, I did not do that. I mean, of course, I'm running every week and I'm doing fitness classes and things, but like I just traveled to Europe for 2 weeks. Like it makes no sense. It makes no sense. Lessons learned of why maybe that happened, I'll get to later. But yeah, I was really happy that I felt good and that I had a really fun race. And I mean, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Billy had a bagel waiting on me at the finish, which clutch, honestly, like so important to get that real food back into your stomach after only having like water and gels and working really hard. You just like don't want anything sweet after all those sweet gels, or at least I don't. So having that everything bagel with vegan scallion cream cheese, that is like the best order, toasted. Best order for me, just delicious. So shout out Billy for that clutch. The first year I ran this, I didn't have anything afterwards, and I got a pretzel at the baseball stadium, and it was a disappointment. I'm not going to lie. So yeah, bagel at the finish, hung out there for a little bit, stretched, all the things, and then hopped on the train back to Manhattan, which I will say, be warned, if you come and run this race and you're staying in Manhattan, or you live in Manhattan and you want to run this race and you haven't run it before, in my opinion, that's the worst part of the day. It's not getting out to the start. That's like maybe a 30-minute train from where I live, at least, to get out to Prospect Park. But getting home from the finish, like it took a little over an hour, I think, by the time we had to like wait on a train and then take the train all the way back. That is the worst part because you're also like tired, sweaty, smelly. The train gets really, really crowded, by the way, with a bunch of other sweaty, smelly runners. So it's not pleasant. And I'm sure it's much worse for the spectators who are on that aren't also like, well, I'm contributing to this disgustingness. So just be warned, prepare yourself. It's going to be an hour on the train to get back to Manhattan. And then let's chat about race day celebration because in my opinion, no matter how your race goes, you need to go out and celebrate it because you're not just celebrating that day and what the day looked like for you. You're celebrating all of the hard work that you've put into training and preparing for the race, however long it might be, however your training looked like. If you hit every single mark, every single day you did what you had outlined for yourself or what your coach had outlined for yourself, or if you were just barely hanging on, living life, you still need to celebrate. Like that's a lot of effort. Not a lot of people do this, and you should be proud of yourself for working hard. So I always go out and celebrate a race. It's like kind of the best part of race day. It's like having that feeling of accomplishment and then getting to go out and celebrate with your loved ones because they're part of your race too. They're who helped you get there, get through the training, get to the finish line. So Billy and I went to a restaurant called Sadie's in Seaport for like brunch and beers. They're a newer restaurant, hadn't been before. Super cute. We just wanted to find somewhere to sit outside and eat. I got a breakfast burrito because refueling is important. So I wanted the protein, the beans and the eggs and the carbs from the tortilla and the potatoes for recovery. Protein for sure, but also the carb refuel because your body's burning off a ton of carbs when it converts to energy when you're running. So had that. And of course, a beer, you know, my favorite post-race celebration beverage. Had an Evil Twin Brewing Forever Ever IPA. It was delightful. Evil Twin's a Brooklyn brewery, and I really enjoy it. Then we went to Talia in Cobble Hill, another brewery. This one's woman-owned brewery. We normally go to their West Village location. Been to their Williamsburg one a few times as well, but we went to the Cobble Hill one. This is the second time we've been there. It's also super cute and a little bit less chaotic over in Cobble Hill. It's back in Brooklyn, so it felt fitting for the Brooklyn Half, and had the Sun Up Hazy IPA, and also would highly recommend. So just mark those two breweries down. If you're not from here and you want to come and visit the city, and you're a beer person, go enjoy. And then that evening, we had homemade pizza and movie night, which, again, another great low-key way to celebrate. If you've been feeling wired but tired, overwhelmed for no clear reason, or like your body just can't quite seem to settle, you're not alone. And more importantly, you're not broken. Your nervous system might just need support getting reorganized. And that's why we created the Back to Baseline bundle. For just $300, you'll get a 75-minute one-on-one Health by Haven health coaching session with me, where we'll discuss what's really going on in your day-to-day life, your stress, your habits, your nutrition, and start sustainably building a path back to feeling like yourself again. Then you'll continue that work in your body with a 60-minute CFT session at Avoda Massage Therapy. This isn't just massage, it's focused, intentional work designed to help your nervous system slow down, release stored tension, and reorganize into a more regulated, grounded state. Because healing isn't just about pushing through, it's about creating safety in your body again. If you're ready to feel more like you, steady, clear, and connected, the Back to Baseline bundle is here for you. Learn more and register for your session through the link in this podcast episode description or over on Instagram, links in the bio of @HealthByHaven. Enough about my race day and celebration. Thanks for hanging in here if you're still here. Hope that was interesting to you or gave you a little bit of insight. But let's get into how to run the race if you're interested in running next year or in years to come. There are several ways to run the Brooklyn Half Marathon. First way is entering into the lottery. This is actually how I got into the race in 2020. The first time I ran it, you basically just put your name in a drawing and cross your fingers. And this is the only race lottery I have ever gotten into. I have entered all the world major lotteries for years and years and years, never been drawn. The first time I ever entered this lottery, I got drawn. It was such a happy surprise. And so I would highly encourage you, if you're interested, to just throw your name in the hat. Why not? See what happens. These aren't as competitive as like the New York City Marathon lottery. So you never know. You could also run the Virtual 6 program. That is how I got into the race in 2025 and in 2026. This means you run 6 virtual New York Roadrunners races, and make sure that when you're registering, you register at that Virtual 6 tier, because you can run virtual races for free with New York Roadrunners, but the Virtual 6 tier, of course, they got to make their money. So they're going to make you pay. It is an expensive way to run a half if you consider adding all of those up. But if you really are determined to get into this race, it's a fairly easy way to do so. You can run the virtual races from anywhere. So if you don't live in New York, but you want to run the Brooklyn Half, you can run 6 virtual races throughout the year to get that guaranteed entry into the Brooklyn Half the following year. Jury's still out if I'm going to do that for next year or not. You can also defer your registration from the previous year. So say you're registered in 2027, you get an injury, you can defer it and run in 2028. I do believe you have to pay for the registration again, but a way to get to run it. Also, if you're a certain level of New York Roadrunners member, you get guaranteed entry. If you fundraise for New York Roadrunners charity Team for Kids, you can also get entry. There's obviously a lot of other perks that you get. And of course, you're giving back to a charity that supports getting kids out and active, which I love. It's a much lower fundraising threshold than like a world major marathon. I think it was 750 this year, maybe. And then you could also register to run with an international tour group. So if you're coming from overseas, you can register. And this is same with a lot of world major marathons as well, or even just like big races internationally. You can run with a tour group. They get a certain number of bibs, and you're paying for a package essentially with like travel, lodging, all of that. And then lastly, you can time qualify 2 different ways. There are specific New York Roadrunner qualifying events, and then there are also a limited amount of bibs they have for time qualifiers that qualified at non-New York Roadrunners events. And I would just highly suggest, if you're interested in running that way, take a look at their website, because I think every year it changes, like what the qualifying standards are depending on your gender and your age and all of that. But there is a time qualifying way to run the Brooklyn Half. Now, let's chat about the course a little bit. First 7 or so miles are in and around Prospect Park, a lot of like switchbacks and a big loop through the park, quite hilly, a lot of turns and undulations. It is mostly shaded, luckily, because of the park and all the trees, but a lot of like zigzagging around and being like, wait, where am I? Just fair warning. Take a look at that profile and the course map if you're curious. And then the last 6 or so miles, slightly downhill, straight shot down Ocean Boulevard from Prospect Park out to Coney Island. You get that really gradual downhill for most of it, which is lovely. Less lovely is less shaded. Although, like I said, this year felt a little more shaded to me. So you're going to feel the heat a little bit more, but it's nice that you're not also like pushing up a lot of big hills. You take that left turn onto the ramp to the boardwalk, quick right turn onto the boardwalk, and you finish there. It is not long on the boardwalk, but you can see the ocean, so that is pretty fun. And a thing to note about the boardwalk is that obviously it is wooden plank instead of concrete. It's got a little bit more give. It feels honestly like nice and cushiony and a little bit bouncy for that last little push of the race. Fueling, one of my favorite things. Let's chat race day nutrition and leading up. You obviously want to be fueling your body with extra carbohydrates in the days leading up to running a race. Your body can store glucose in your muscles that it can then use when you're having a really hard effort. It's going to burn it for fuel quickly. Your body can convert carbohydrates into fuel much faster than it can convert fats into fuel, and with less GI distress. So that is why you hear of the famous carb load for runners. So I would recommend increasing that carb uptake 1 to 2 days out before a half marathon, 2 to 3 days out before a full marathon. Although if you're needing an excuse the full week prior, like honestly, go for it. I don't see an issue. So always do a veggie pasta with some bread the night before a race. Did it for this one as well. And then on race morning this year, I had a large slice of toasted sourdough with some peanut butter and coffee. Had that unfortunately around like 4:45 a.m., which is way earlier than I wanted to eat, but I knew my body was going to need the fuel. And then I took a Morton Solid Bar with me to the start line and had that about 20 minutes before the start. And that, if you're like, what the heck is that? Morton is a fueling company for like performance nutrition. It's essentially like the Quaker like chewy bars, just without chocolate chips and like way, 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 way sweeter tasting, in my opinion. It's like, feels like it's covered in honey. It's so much sugar, but performance nutrition is different than your daily nutrition. In this instance, you actually do want those simple carbohydrates that your body can quickly convert into energy and burn and use in the race. Whereas we wouldn't really want that just on a random morning, because it's just going to spike your blood sugar if you're not going to use it on a hard training effort. Throughout the race, I had 3 different gels. I currently am using the GU Nutrition. So at mile 3.5, I took their salted caramel with 20 milligrams of caffeine. At mile 7, I took the s'mores flavor with no caffeine. And then at mile 10, I took the vanilla with another 20 milligrams of caffeine. And I'm not going to lie, you guys, since this was not a goal race for me, I have not been using gels on the run. And I really was underprepared for this. I only had a few left in the cabinet. And I don't think I've ever taken more than one caffeinated gel in a race except for a full marathon, like not in half. So I was a little bit nervous about this, I'm not going to lie, because I didn't want the GI distress from too much caffeine. But I guess it worked out because I PR'd. So yeah, do as I say, not as I do, though. I would really plan this out better. Recommend planning this out better than I did. I did break up those caffeinated gels on purpose, and I also looked at the caffeine content and all the gels I had left. I had a few that had 40 milligrams of caffeine, so I was like, not today. We are going to do the 20 milligrams. And luckily, it was all okay. Did not have to make any bathroom breaks on the run, which was good. Afterwards, had that bagel pretty immediately, had half of it and then had the other half an hour later. That was clutch to, again, refuel with some carbs. It was a tofu cream cheese, so a tiny bit of protein, not that much, and some fats. And then, as we already discussed, brunch and dinner, just make sure you're replenishing your body. Even though oftentimes I'm not super hungry after a race, your body needs that replenishment to help your muscles recover faster, help prevent injuries. You also want to make sure you're hydrating with a bunch of water and electrolytes. So during the race, I actually went through 2 of my handheld bottles. I refilled it at a mile 8 water station, I believe. And then water and Gatorade after for me. I did do an element packet the day before the race, though, to make sure I was getting those extra electrolytes in as well. So lots of ways to make sure you're fueling before, during, and after, and make sure you're hydrating before, during, and after. But that is just what I did for this race, and it worked for me. So if you're looking for some ideas, maybe that will work for you as well. A few lessons learned on the race, and I shared these on Instagram over at Health by Haven. But a few things that I was thinking about as I was running and afterwards. 1, don't take yourself so seriously. It's just running. I think that this lends itself with kind of my next point was I run better when I'm running out of joy versus out of fear or the pressure to chase down a goal. Sometimes we, and by we, I mean me, but maybe you can relate, get so wrapped up in the pressure to perform, even if it's just our own pressure. It's not induced by anybody else. It's if you're ultra competitive with yourself like I am, you get an idea in your head of this is the time I want to hit, or this is how I want to feel, or this is the place I want to get, or whatever it may be. And you get so wrapped up in it that you're running stressed or scared and you're tense and you're not able to kind of turn your brain off and just find your flow and click through miles. And I have really realized, that's a motivator for some people. And it is to me for an extent as well. But I've really realized when I'm happy and I'm grinning like an idiot when I'm running and I'm just I can't believe I get to do this. This is so much fun. How is this my life? Those are the days that I run the best. And those are the days that I PR. Same thing with the marathon, New York City Marathon. That is a hilly course. Probably shouldn't have PR'd on it, but I did because I was just so happy to be there. And so think about your mindset when you're running. And if you're always running out of fear, maybe try to find that joy instead and see if that helps your performance. Listen to your body, slow down when you need to slow down. Fuel and hydrate early and often. We have chatted through this a bunch on this episode already, but I pulled back a bit in Prospect Park when I felt like I was pushing a little too much, and I was still able to run my fastest race time, my fastest half marathon time. So listen to your body, keep yourself safe. That's more important than any time is. Billy's my number 1 cheerleader / executive director of race day logistics. He did give himself that title bump. I'm pretty sure last time we had a race recap, he was not an executive director yet. So go congratulate him. But my races wouldn't be nearly as fun without him. They wouldn't be nearly as smooth without him. He really helps kind of figure out all of the logistics and timing of when we need to leave, what train we need to get on, where we're going to get off, all those things. And I just get to be a happy follower. And it's so nice because it takes a lot of mental load off of the day for me when I'm already going to be like a little bit antsy, a little bit nervous, a little bit stressed about the race to come. So find your people that are going to support you and find the people that are maybe going to want to run with you or cheer for you or whatever. Like it's going to make your day better and more fun and like bigger than just yourself. Running towards a bagel at the finish line is also a really good motivator. So thank you again, Billy, for that bagel. What's your celebration? Like I like to think about, oh, that bagel's going to taste so good. We're going to have so much fun when we go out to a brewery afterwards. Like make sure you have a way or a thing that you're going to celebrate with at the end. It doesn't have to be food or beverage, but like how are you going to celebrate? So whenever it gets really tough, not only can you be like, okay, why am I doing this? But you can also think, oh, this thing is waiting for me at the finish line. And it's a fun little motivator. And lastly, this is me being silly, but I said perhaps a 2-week carb load tour of Italy and real Italian pasta equals an automatic PR. We'll need to replicate this scientific test and report back. If anyone wants to sponsor a trip to Italy, I would love to replicate this study and see if eating 2 more weeks of Italian pasta before a race really helps me get to the next PR. Let me know. Can you relate? I want to know. What's your PR food? Maybe I should try some new stuff out. Just a few final parting thoughts for you guys. I love this race. It has been such a blast to run it the last 3 years. I have a lot of races that I want to run on the calendar next year. So TBD if I will be back or not. I will certainly be feeling FOMO if I'm not out there running. I'll have to go out and cheer instead or volunteer at it. But it's such a fun race. If you're looking for a fun half marathon where the vibes are high, maybe you want to use it as an excuse to come visit New York City, I would highly recommend this race. It's such a fun way to experience Coney Island as well. That's not really like a destination I would have set out for, but it's a fun way to run there and go and see it. There's obviously all the amusement park rides that you could ride afterwards if you want to hang out there for a while. There's lots of bars and restaurants. You could get a famous Nathan's hot dog if you're a hot dog eater. So it's a fun way to experience Coney Island and to see more of Brooklyn. And it's a great 9+1 credit option as well. If you're doing New York Roadrunners 9+1 program, run 9 races, volunteer 1 to get into the marathon. This is a 9+1 qualifying race and just a blast, a lot of fun. So anyways, hope this little recap was interesting to you guys, gave you some insight into running this race. If you want to run it, gave you some insight into fueling and how racing feels and all the things if you're curious about running a half marathon. But if there are any questions you had that I didn't answer, you guys know you can always message me over on Instagram at Health by Haven. I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing what episodes resonate with you or what things were helpful. So whatever you found helpful or interesting today, if you have 2 extra seconds and you want to scroll down and leave a review and say like, oh, I really loved listening to the race day recap. Now I know I can go ride the roller coaster and eat a Nathan's hot dog at the end in Coney Island. Something like that. Whatever your favorite little tidbit was, if you want to leave that in a review for the podcast, I would be so appreciative. That really helps not only grow the podcast so that it's recommended to new listeners who might be interested in learning more about running or about health and wellness in general, but it also shows my amazing sponsors and potential future sponsors that I have a community here that is interested in the content and that it would be a good use of their dollars and their time to collaborate with Health by Haven to expand the reach of their businesses as well if it relates. So thank you guys so much. If you can tap the little 5-star rating as well while you're at it, it would mean so much to me. But hope you have a wonderful day. Hope this is inspiring you to lace up your shoes and get out the door for a run. And we'll be back next week with another fun episode. Season 5 is packed with good ones, so make sure you're subscribed. You got those auto downloads on so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Health by Haven podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to give the show a 5-star rating and leave a review. It makes such a huge difference in reaching new people and spreading the joy of healthy living. I would also be so appreciative if you subscribe to the show in the listening app of your choice so you never miss an episode. Your support truly means the world to me. Have a happy, healthy day, and I'll talk to you again soon.